baby chicks. I know it's up there, so just stay with me a minute. Did you know that it takes hours for a baby chick to break out of its shell, out of its egg shell? That's why when you see them, they're all wet and matted. It's been an exhausting experience. So researchers said to themselves, well, what if we took these baby chicks and we helped them along while they were breaking out? So as they started chipping at the shell, what they would do is take a spoon and gently crack that shell so that chick could come out into the world much easier. Then they compared the chicks that had to fight to get into the world versus the chicks that were helped along. And you know what they found? The chicks that had to fight their way into the world actually were stronger and lived longer than chicks that didn't have to do that. So I found this quite interesting, and I thought, well, does this also apply to the human world? I looked at 2 countries. One, South Africa, which has an abundance of natural resources: oil, diamonds, gold, copper, just to name a few. And then I looked at Israel, a country known for its lack of natural resources. Okay, it has some potash, we'll give it that, because it does have the Dead Sea. Do you know which country is wealthier? Turns out it's Israel, and by a long shot. In fact, Israel's GDP per capita is 3 times that of South Africa. So what that says to me is this: when you have nothing and you're surrounded by your enemies, you become entrepreneurial. And in Israel, there are more startup companies per capita than any other country in the world. So now I'm going to tell you a story about how I broke out of my shell. I'm not saying I'm a chick, it's just a metaphor. In 1968, my family immigrates to Canada from Taiwan. You can see we're pretty dressed up here because people did that in those days when they were getting onto a plane. My father has a huge smile on his face because he believes he's going to a country of opportunity where all you needed to be successful was your own resourcefulness. And you know why he has to believe this? Because he has $200 in his pocket, and that's it. So I start grade 2 in Toronto, and it's my job to take my brother, who only has a half-day kindergarten, home, and lock him up in the one room that we've rented in the rooming house. I would come back and find him in the afternoon. We had addresses sewn onto our coats so that if we were lost, people would know where to return us to. We never got lost. By grade 4, my English is much better, and my teacher puts this word on the board one day. It's supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. It's the biggest word I've ever seen. It's the biggest word I think anyone in the class had ever seen. And it was from a movie called Mary Poppins, which was at the time very popular. I hadn't seen the movie, but I knew about it. And she says, I want you guys to see how many words you can make out of the letters in this word. And tomorrow, we're going to see who the winner is. I love a challenge, and I love to win. But I also knew that the other kids had a much bigger vocabulary than I did. And I also knew that unlike their parents, mine wouldn't be able to help me. So I sat down with a dictionary, and I started with A. And I didn't finish until I was at X. You know, it's funny, my parents never said to me things like, you're 9 years old, it's midnight, I think you should go to bed. And that worked out well for me. So the next day, Miss Moore says, how many have 10 words? And I think to myself, you gotta be joking. All the hands mostly go up. And then she says 20 words. Some hands come down. 30 words, more hands come down. 40, 50, 70. Then all the hands are down except mine. She says 80, my hand's still up. 90, my hand's still up again. 100, my hand's still up. She's getting tired of this by now. So she says, well, how many words do you have? And I say 235. And she says, I don't believe you. Show me your work. So I go up to her desk. I have the papers in my hand. I'm a little nervous, but I know I'm right because I had numbered every single word. They didn't have to count them. I graduate top of my class in grade 4, graduate second out of high school, and I end up going to the University of Western Ontario on academic scholarships, and I go to the business school there. It sets me up very well for a career in investing, and 10 years after that, I would become president of the Toronto Society of Financial Analysts. 10 years after that, I would start an investment counseling firm specializing in international investing, which is one of the largest in Canada. So you say, okay, fine, you're a business person, I get that. But you know, something happened to me 2 years ago that I could not have possibly expected or anticipated. I heard about a story about a Polish woman and her daughter who, at great risk to themselves, had Jewish families and a German soldier in her home. She was clever, she was compassionate, she was resourceful. This is my kind of story. So I thought to myself, I would love to write a fictional story based on these true events. But here's the thing. I have no literary background, and I don't know anybody in the literary world. I don't even know anybody who knows anybody in the literary field. But is that going to stop me? Absolutely not, because I got bags and bags of resourcefulness, right? So I asked myself, what's the fastest way to become good at something that is outside your area of competence? And do you know what the answer is to that? Find the person who is the best in that field and model after them. They've already figured it out. They know what works. So at the time, my son had finished reading a book called The Hunger Games. I think most of you have heard of this. There's a movie. It's a big success story, right? I had read it as well. I thought, this is a story that I enjoy, that is fast-moving, fast-paced, written in a style that I can associate with, that I like. So I decided that I would read The Hunger Games 5 times. I'd read it for the storyline. I'd read it for character development. I'd read it for pace, rhythm, etc. And I'd teach myself from a book that was widely accepted and liked. So after I did that, I searched stories in terms of what happened in Poland during the Holocaust. I also involved Holocaust experts in reading the story, a manuscript that I had written, to make sure that it was honest and authentic. In fact, in one scene of the story, I have a piece of pie to celebrate a birthday, and that was changed to a piece of cake to celebrate Hanukkah. That seems like a small detail, but details like that is what is going to make the book feel really true to that time period. So we did that. Now, after I wrote this manuscript, I sent it out to people I knew. And you know what happened? I couldn't believe it. We had comments coming back like, I couldn't put it down. This is amazing. I loved it. Now, your friends will say things like that. But clearly, they sent it to their friends, and they also had the same comments. I thought, wow, maybe we have something here. So I sent it out to various publishing companies. And then you know what happened? Absolutely nothing. Not unless you count a few rejections. So I'm at this point, I think to myself, I believe in the product. I believe in this story. Today, with social media and with the internet, if people like it, they'll tell their friends, and it'll get out that way. So I decided to self-publish. In March this year, the book came out, end of March. And you know what happened? This is the book. By April, we had great reviews coming in. Julie Alia, who is the #1 reviewer for Amazon and the #1 Hall of Fame reviewer, said things like, it moved me. So by April, the book became a bestseller in Canada. And it stayed there throughout the summer. Does it get any better than this? Actually, it does. Penguin gives me a call, and they say, we would like to have world rights to your book. And I say, okay. Penguin Random House is the largest publishing firm in the world. And after I hang up the phone, I go, they're going to know that now. But that's okay. So it turns out every country in the world gets to decide whether they want to publish the book or not. It's not a head office decision. But they said to me that they could not believe how quickly the rights were sold around the world. In fact, as we speak, the book is being translated into 8 languages, one of which is Chinese, and the book will be available in Taiwan next year. It means that my parents will now be able to read this story, and that's very touching to me. The book is now available in the Netherlands in Dutch. This is the Italian cover. This is the Spanish cover. It's already available. available in the US, and now back to Canada. Book reporter said, I finished reading My Mother's Secret. I am in awe of it. So now things are looking up. I also donated 100% of the advance that I received from Penguin Books to various charities, including Love of Reading, which buys books for kids who can't afford them, to various animal shelters, and to medical research and Girls Helping Girls. I think something that you know about. What I want to share with you today is this. If you have a dream, if you have something you've always wanted to do, look within yourself, because that is where resourcefulness resides. And then go for it. Good luck. Thank you.